Hey there, and welcome back to the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. This is the place where we try to chat all things, not just business growth, but also around podcasting for coaches and consultants, whether you're hosting your own show or guesting on others to build your brand. Now, I'm your host, Karen Roberts, and today I'm joined by Jason Clark. He is a brand strategist and marketing leader who helps growing businesses just get clear on who they are, what they stand for, and how to show up consistently, both online and off, so that they can communicate with confidence as they grow. So this episode is called Leading Through Change with Brand Clarity and Purpose. And honestly, if your brand feels a little all over the place right now, or your business is growing faster than your messaging can keep up, this one is going to give you a fresh perspective and some practical steps to get you back on track. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Great to meet you, Karen. I'm happy to be here.
So let's start, as always. Let's hear a little bit about your backstory and what inspired you to do what you're doing now. Branding is very important, but share a little bit about your backstory.
Sure. Oh, gosh, there's too much to share for a short podcast, but let's start with I grew up my career in the agency world and got a little disillusioned in the early 2000s and decided to go off on my own. So I started my own consultancy and then eventually actually met someone who owned a small agency, and we started to work together, and he offered to hire me into his agency, and I absolutely did not want to do that. So after working together for a while, he offered to let me buy into the business. I bought in 50% owner. And then about 5 or 6 years later, he retired. So I bought him out completely, became 100% owner of the agency. And then just recently, at the beginning of 2023, I merged my business with a bigger business called eResources, which will be Tectonic, rebranded to Tectonic as this episode is published. So now I've gone from owner/CEO to chief marketing officer of a very large digital services firm.
Okay. And so you help people with their branding and to scale. So how exactly do you do that? How do you help coaches and consultants?
Sure. So one of the things that I realized early in my career, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was all, we need a website. We need a website. And a lot of what I realized during that process is people were trying to develop their brand strategy as they built a website. And it was absolutely a cart before the horse process. So what we did is we backed into some foundational principles about brand strategy, knowing your audience, knowing your core values and beliefs, knowing the true authentic culture and persona of your company. And so we extracted that from our other project work and developed its own framework. And now we use that at the beginning of many engagements when we do branding and marketing or website development for our clients. We go through that process first. Sometimes it's optional, and sometimes if organization just really can't make decisions, this framework really helps them make those decisions. So every now and then I will insist, like, you need to go through our brand strategy process before we start your website or before we start an identity project or video or whatever it might be. Like, this is core and foundational and very important to your future.
And why do you think most people are, and I'm going to put that out there, that's an opinion, right? But a lot of people, okay, thank you for that. Why do people not do this first? What do you see as the problem here? Is it that people don't understand the value of branding, or they're going about things in the wrong order, right?
In lots of ways, they think they already know that, right? We know who our audience is. We know what we're providing. We know our value. And I'm going to get a little bit philosophical here. When something when you internalize something and it's in your head, right? We haven't codified this. We don't have documents explaining our brand pillars or anything like that. Like, I just know it, right? It is a non-linear concept in your head, right? When you force an organization or people to articulate that in a linear fashion, here's from first principles, here's our beliefs and our values, all the way up to here's our positioning, it becomes linear and it becomes understandable, not just for the owner or the leadership team, but for everybody involved in that brand. So they may know, and like a leader may know or be able to articulate that, but it hasn't been codified in a way that can scale. And usually it hasn't. So that is, again, like when people, about 30% of the way through this process, people will be like, why are we doing this? We already know this stuff. And then you start getting revelations from your stakeholder meetings or from like a whiteboarding exercise. And then the light bulb goes off about 60, 70% through this process. And oh my God, I can use this. Like I have, it's like going into a garage and the tools are everywhere on the floor, scattered around. Into the toolbox is now well organized. And hey, I need this hammer for this message. And it's,
well, what
again,
I'm hearing is that there's no real clarity, because it hasn't been written down. And I suppose I can totally understand that from a way. It's like we're told we're still in January, right? Most people at the beginning of the year, they know that they should, well, no, I shouldn't use that word. Write their goals down. And we all know that's needed, but are they actually doing it? Is it the same way, do you think? They think they know this stuff, but they haven't actually gone through the process. And then when you take them through it, it is giving them those aha moments. And it is about having complete clarity. Would that be roundabout?
And using a consultant or an agency is really helpful, because sometimes it's, what do they say? You can't read the label from inside the jar, right? We've worked with a few banks over the years, and the bankers really are very excited about very complicated offerings and like loan vehicles and all this kind of stuff, when like the audience really just wants peace of mind and trust. I don't like those specifics. You're not there yet. Like, you have to hit them emotionally first with something that is true and something that somebody can either connect with or not connect with, right? A lot of the process that I use is I want someone to be able to say no to you as easily as they say yes, because you can't be all things to all people. So you can't, that's off the board. You can't say that unless you're a commodity like corn or milk.
Yeah. It sounds, it comes from maybe a bit of fear of missing out. Whereas what you said, you've got to be able to get an answer. So having that clarity on your messaging, so that, because it goes back down to, I don't know, things like sell them what they want, give them what they need. They might need this super complicated thing over here, but they don't know what they don't know. So going back to being very specific.
Investing is the same way. Like, I got into the stock market way too late in life because it's just so complicated. And the easy in is like, just put your money in an index fund and watch it grow. And once you do that, it's, oh, wow, now I can maybe get a little bit specific about my stock picks because I understand the foundation and the basics. And because of that, like, my son is 17 and he's got a stock account, and most of it is in an index fund, but every now and then he'll be like, hey, Dad, should I put some money in NVIDIA? I'm like, I don't know. Should you? Let's try.
Brilliant. Love that.
Branding's the same way. It's okay. Should we be on TikTok? I don't know. Let's try. If your foundation is correct, if you know your foundation and you can articulate that.
And going back to what you said earlier about, it is good to speak to somebody outside to get that, I suppose it's like that overview that you can't see. Like you said, if you're inside, you can't read the logo. You can't see the wood through the trees. And that, I think, is massive. And I don't know why people, again, Especially when I know you work with big organizations. Most of our listeners are possibly solopreneurs, they're coaches and consultants. And when they start out, I think many are fearful of reaching out for help because they think they should know it all and then they should do it by themselves. But sometimes speaking to somebody, just verbalizing the thoughts that are going in through your head that you haven't actually articulated is going to be massive.
This is why podcasts are so popular now, right? You're a podcast coach. I can think that I know all the answers to X subject matter, but if I can't articulate them well to the right audience, then I don't have much to offer.
Absolutely. And this is why this is so good, because a lot of people out there might just have this perception of what a brand strategist does, and then they think that's not for them. But hearing you talk about it and why it's going to help their business is so much more powerful than reading a page on a website, right?
Yeah, sure. And you should be able to, smaller businesses and solopreneurs should be able to do some of this work themselves and not have to spend $100,000 on this process. There's this, and this is part of what I love about what we've developed is we've done it for nonprofits with 5 employees, and we've done it for organizations with hundreds of employees, and it can scale both time and cost wise and whatnot to that. Like obviously you're not going to get as rich and detailed a strategy for 1 to 10 people organizations, but you will get something that will be useful.
So what are the steps that people need to take to get their branding correct so that they can scale?
Sure. So we've got a 7-step process in our brand strategy, and it's a little bit. There are agencies. There is the branding, the academic branding that you might learn in university if you get deep into this. But we've developed this based on time and experience and what actually moves the needle for our clients. So we start with stakeholder interviews. We like to be one-on-one with our stakeholders, right? Because lots of times the loudest person in the room or the person with the most authority usually gets like everyone agreeing with that person, right? So we love to do one-on-one interviews because we can pull out insights. We like to do that all up and down the organization because a lot of times the person at the reception desk knows more than the CEO. The CEO can maybe articulate a vision, but the person at the reception desk can articulate what people actually are asking and what they want. So from there, it's competitive analysis in lots of different ways based on the organization. What are other people doing? Are we following the leader or are we leading type of thing? From there, there's an exercise called brand pillars, and that is it's taking what we've learned so far and giving it a structure. What do you do? Who do you do it for? Why do you do it? So there's usually 3 or 4 pillars that have bigger concepts with lots of descriptive words and phrases under that, and that becomes a matrix for copywriting. That's very important for copywriting in terms of being able to be consistent in the words that you're using and the narrative that gets put in place. Personas are still very important. So you've got essentially buyer or customer personas, right? So for us as an agency, we've got the CEO persona, we've got the marketing intern persona. Like there are lots of people that can refer work to us that are important, and every one of those is trying to solve a problem a little bit differently. So if we can say, hey, this person's called me, they match this persona, so this is probably what they need from us, then we can move them forward with more efficiency and confidence in what they're asking for. So after those steps, that's about 5 steps into it. The last 2 are really fun. We've got a workshop called a semantic differential. And so after everything we've learned, there is a spectrum of attributes, right? So it might be something like playful to serious. So grade yourself on a spectrum for your organization. How do you perceive yourself now? And how do you want to be perceived? So that you've got 5 dots to pick from. No, 6. There is no middle. You can't say you're 50-50. You have to lean playful. You have to lean serious, right? Educational versus entertaining, right? That might be something in this differential. Do you want to educate your customer? Do you want to entertain them? Both of those things sell, But if we're building a brand for you, which direction are you now? And do you want to lean in a different direction? And that helps the creative team plot out those moves for a new brand or for a refreshed brand that actually aligns with how you're already perceived and how you wish to be perceived moving forward. And the last part of this process, we developed what we call the brand concept. And my director of strategy, Ben Wilson, he likes to call that the vibe. What's your vibe? And it's important. So that comes with kind of a positioning statement, a headline, mood boards, tons of copy, like headline copy. And that starts to formulate, again, the actual toolkit that you'll be using when you refresh your positioning or the copy on your website, or how you talk on Instagram and LinkedIn or TikTok, or hey, we're going to farm out some video work to be done. So they're going to have all this information that's very rich and useful and guides them in a direction that becomes very consistent over time, that people can either bond to because that's what you want to do with a brand, or they cannot. Again, they can say no as well, right? Because
that's good, because you're
right.
filtering out
Yes.
the right people. You want to work with the right people for you.
Yeah.
It just goes to show there's a lot more that goes into this than, I don't know, going to ChatGPT and asking what your brand should be. There's a lot. And this is why people will still need, and I think there's a lot of fear going on around it, because people, again, do think they can do this on their own. No, there's a little bit more that goes into it, which is why they need somebody like you to actually implement this in the right way, because you don't know what you don't know. And don't just think just because you're going to ask a question to AI, you're going to get the right answer. It doesn't work like that. So what can people expect? What's the big promise, would you say, if someone came to work with you guys?
The big promise is we will set you on a course that aligns your organization internally and sets expectations externally, right? A lot of this lately in the past few years has been used almost as much internally as externally. What do we stand for as a company? What are we doing here? Obviously, we want to get a paycheck and we want to serve our people and all of that, but also you have to stand for something. And that actually, it's a little bit deeper than mission, vision, values that you develop and you throw in a file cabinet and never use again. This is an actual toolkit that lets you move that forward.
Perfect. And so, look, if the listeners are out there and they're thinking like, okay, maybe things aren't going as they want, and they realize, they're aware that maybe they need to go back a little bit and start in the right way, what should the listeners do next? How do they get in touch? What would be the next logical step for you?
Yeah, you could email me. That would be jason@viastudio.com. My goals. So a lot of this information we've published on our blog and our website and my LinkedIn. The work itself is not a secret. This isn't some proprietary thing where you have to pay us lots of money to get it. Success breeds success, right? If I can help somebody, and again, like you mentioned, the solopreneurs, like if you call me and we have a little conversation and I can guide you in the right direction, maybe one day you'll be able to refer me a client. This is more about being helpful. And like, I've seen this work so many times now that I believe in it very truly and am happy to give it away, really. So I would love this year, we mentioned goals at the beginning of the conversation. One of my goals is to put this into more of a educational framework so I can give people a little bit of workshop that they can do on their own. So if I can show you a little bit of progress, if you can do some of this work by yourself, imagine what that would be if you've got a strategist and a creative director and a team that can really supercharge this and help you move it forward.
Fantastic. And if you're out there walking the dog, driving, and you can't get access to the links, don't worry, go back to the show notes. Jason's details will be in there. And look, cool. And you use guesting as a way to grow your business. I know Podmatch is, guys, if you're listening, you want to do this, Podmatch, thank goodness for Alex Sanfilippo. He really has got It's like a dating app for guests and hosts, and you will find the right fit for you. But what's been your biggest win from guesting on a podcast, Jason?
The biggest win so far is, so one of our offerings at Tectonic is a property management IT support team that we have, which is very niche, and it is fairly difficult to win new clients because it's a hard offering to market besides referrals. So in the podcast network, we've actually found one of the larger property management companies in the country. We're actually talking to them right now about onboarding them to our support team, which is just
brilliant.
Amazing.
Love that.
Yes.
And that just goes to show, listeners, this is why, yes, guesting on podcasts can be a phenomenal strategy for you to grow your business. But just as Jason's just shared there, something really key to remember is that you've got to find the right show for what it is you're offering. It's got to be in alignment. Don't just go for any show or what you think is the biggest show. That's not the idea. It's about alignment. And it's about the relationship you build with the host, or if you're hosting, with the guest, right, if it's the right fit. Fantastic to hear some wins from that. And guys, listeners, if you have been thinking about guesting on podcasts as a way to grow your business this year, I also have a gift for you. Now, this is normally exclusively for paid clients, but as you're my loyal listeners, you can get access for free to my 4-part mini course, the Podcast Profits Funnel. There is a caveat to that, as you're getting it for free. You have to complete it in 5 days and all the short assignments. And if you do, you will get the reward video, which you can't get access to anywhere else. It is part of my 5K offer, and that is how to automate your sales. So if you're a coach and you're tired of doing sales calls and repeating yourself or wasting time with this might be a good fit for you. So go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free. And even if you're going to do that, you still need the right branding. So go to Jason's site, find out a little bit more. And if it's the right fit for you, do that combination. It's a perfect fit. Jason, thank you for your time today. It's been lovely speaking with you. And the listeners, I'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're